There are three types of people. This is one place where you and the police officers are exactly the same. There are three types of people that will hurt you at work. They are your clients or claimants, they are your coworkers, and they are your spouses. So these are the three type of people that will assault you at work. There are, and I will say that there are occasionally outliers to this. I'm not going to say that somebody couldn't get confused and come in here and think something else was going on, but those are the three main categories of people that are going to hurt you at work. So protecting yourself against physical attacks. You'll not always be able to predict who's a threat, and you should never be complacent. All right, this is a photo of Casper where, I can't remember his name, but the boy came back from the East Coast, shot his father's live-in girlfriend, and then shot his father with a crossbow. Amazing, what we got from the radio and the news. It's an amazing story that the father was able to fight him off with a bolt through his head. All right, Canadian Center of Occupational Health and Safety lists the following occupations at higher risk: healthcare employees, correctional officers, social service employees. Number 3, that's where you guys are. Yippee. And it doesn't help that you got DFS right behind you. You got some angry people coming from there too. Protecting yourself from your client is easy. Should be easy. You have a lot of advantages. You have the environment, you have the knowledge, you have a team. When I'm talking about the environment, one of the things is I've gone to the meeting room where you meet with your clients. It doesn't look like there's big heavy furniture in there. I don't know what you take with you when you go in there, but things that I wouldn't take with me if I was going to meet with somebody who could potentially would be angry would be things like staplers, 3-hole punches, letter openers. Okay? This is common sense stuff. If they don't come in with a weapon, don't give them one. Okay? Just common sense. When you go in there, be aware of your surroundings. Be aware, have a plan of escape and or attack. I don't want to say go beat people up or attack them, but if that's what you have to do to keep yourself safe, be willing to do that and have a plan to. There is no reason that if Jason is standing up here, that if Jason and I are standing up here and it's going to be tense, that my first thought is I'm going to push him on his right shoulder and knee him in this thigh right here. There's no reason for me not to have that in my mind. Thanks. So be prepared, especially in those situations where it's going to get ugly. And I assume 90% of the time when you deny somebody a claim, it gets ugly. There's some hard feelings at least. Be aware, spectators change dynamics. That's one of the things. I don't know how often family members come in with clients or claimants. But if my ego is going to get bruised because George is going to deny me my claim and my wife and mother and aunt are there to witness this, this might escalate me even more. Witness, and it happens to us all the time, even as cops. If you get the younger cops out there that feel like they have something to prove, sometimes they use more force than is absolutely necessary. Nothing that's above illegal or that would be illegal, but more than they would need to. So be aware that spectators change the dynamic of what's going on in that room. Be aware of your body position. Just like the thing where when I'm talking with, I always have my hands here when I'm talking to someone. Be aware of your body position and what you can do with that. Knowledge of, with your clients. I like this building. I don't know if I've told you guys this, but I like this building. Your clients or claimants should not have knowledge of where you guys are sitting. And that's why I like that you guys come out to meet them rather than them coming back to meet you. So your workspace, the client should not. I took a little tour of you guys' workspace a couple weeks ago. I almost got lost. So, I almost fired 3 times in the air just because I was lost and I wasn't sure how to get out. So So that's something. That's another benefit that you have that your clients do not. I'm going to call them clients, guys. I'm sorry. You can call them whatever you want, but you know who I'm talking about, right? Also, you should know who's in the building, and the client shouldn't. Does Charlene work right next to the guy who is a linebacker for UW? You know, maybe George's office mate is an amateur MMA fighter. You know, these are things that I, as the bad guy who's wanting to come in and attack one of you guys that have denied me, I don't know that. So it's a pretty good option. You should also know about some things about your clients, and like if you're going to deny a claim. I'm assuming you guys talk to each other, and if somebody is on drugs, drunk, and mad at you, you let other people know, right? Okay. The other thing is, does a client even know who you are and what you look like, or are you just a voice on a phone? So something to think about there. You also have a team that's invested in your well-being. The caveat to the team is you have to use your team. If you know George is beating me up at home, and you know I don't share that with anybody, you know, and George gets mad at me, then I have not utilized the team. Now, as a police officer, I have a team out there all the time, and I contact them with the radio. You guys, I assume everybody here carries a cell phone? All right, so you still have ways of contact as well. Your policy takes advantage of all these things. I was given a sample policy of what you guys have or what you will have, and it's a good one. You're not allowed to, or you only meet with clients during agency hours, so you're not meeting with a client at, say, 9 o'clock at night here. You can only meet clients on agency premises. There has to be other people here when you're meeting with a client. Include a second employee when meeting with the clients that are known to be difficult. And that is huge. I know we all watch movies here, and we all know that Jackie Chan can beat up 6 people at once, you know? And we all know that's true, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a bunch of BS. If you have 2 people, then there's someone that can deal with the problem and somebody that can call for help. You know, and you're multiplying your advantages right there. Now, it does say that if you have to leave the office to meet a client, you got to provide your supervisor with an itinerary outlining the schedule. Confine work performed away from the agency to business hours. So you're not going to be meeting a client in a bar at 9, okay? Or at least you shouldn't be. And you should obviously inform the supervisor immediately should there be any violent, threatening, or harassing, intimidating, or otherwise hazardous event during work away from agency facilities. All right, peace at work. 2009 study of 500 cases of assault at work. The majority of the assaults took place in the parking lot. They were followed by outside. So I would assume that would be like on the sides of the building or something like that. The most likely place for you to be attacked would be outside in the parking lot. The office or in your lobby was almost towards the bottom, was at the bottom of the list. So hopefully we can get you in the building safe, and then the odds are with you. All right, are you guys allowed to use your cell phones while you're at work? Pretty much? Okay. There's not a hard, strict policy against that? Okay. I have been to some facilities where there is a hard, strict policy. You have to put your cell phone in your purse. You have to put your purse in the desk. Or if you don't have a purse, you know, well, maybe you do. And you can't do that. And so what you see, I'm not even sure what I did with my cell phone now. So what you see when these people are walking out of work, they walk out the front door. All right, that's silly, guys. First thing about walking out the door, look around, be alert, don't be texting. Have your keys in your hand. That way, if your car is out there, you can, if nothing else, you could actually, well, yeah, you could do that too. But you could set off your car alarm if nothing else. Say I was behind a car and jumped out at you, and you had your keys in your hand, you could at least hit the panic button. And at least, you know, if nothing else, if I'm grabbing onto George right there, and she hits a panic button, then it's immediately changing my channel to go, oh, somebody might see this. Maybe I shouldn't make my escape now. But also, as you walk out, be ready to react. If you identify the threat, well, have a plan of escape. Know where your cell phone is so that if you do escape and you get into the building, you can call somebody. And when I'm talking about identifying the threat, we all have little clues that we do, especially us bad guys like me, that we do that make people go, huh. Actually, so pay attention to that. Pay attention to those gut feelings. Is it one of those deals where you've walked out in the lobby, you can see out into the parking lot out there, and there's a guy wearing a trench coat that goes to his knees, and it's July in Wyoming. These are little things, just to be aware of and be alert. All right. Coworker and spousal threats are distinctly different from client threats because they know where you work, they know what you look like, they know the layout of the building, they know your schedule, and they know who you work with. So the client threats, while serious, and everybody's been threatened in the last year, the coworker and spousal threats that's where we see a lot of bad stuff happen. Your policy on threatening behavior. These are signs that you should watch out for. Irrational beliefs and ideas, verbal and nonverbal written threats, fascination with weaponry, expressions of a plan to hurt him or others, externalization of blame. I thought I could read this, maybe I can't. Unreciprocated romantic obsession, fear reaction to the client, drastic change in belief system, displays of unwarranted anger, new or increased source of stress at home at work, inability to take criticism, feelings of being victimized. That might have been my phone. Feelings of being victimized, intoxicated, expressions of hopelessness or heightened anxiety, productivity and or attendance problems, violence towards inanimate objects, lack of concern for the safety of others. All right, the individual could be a coworker, and these additional behaviors may be exhibited. Taking up too much of the supervisor's time with behavior or performance problems, stealing or sabotaging projects or equipment, or if you fear a reaction from the coworker. So all these are signs, they're indications, they're something to watch for, whether it's in a client or in a coworker. Coworker violence, some more indicators, and I got this from Gavin DeBecker. Has everybody here heard of him? But some of the things that he talks about as indicators for coworker violence is the coworker inflexible? Do they resist change? The only ideas that count are mine. Okay? That would be a signal. Crusades, won't let anything go, wants to die on every hill. And I'm speaking metaphorically there. That means, there is not any Diet Pepsi in the soda machine out there, and by gosh, Jason, you better make it happen. All right? So that's what I mean. There is no small thing. They have unreasonable expectations. They got to be found right all the time, maybe have a better position, or be the winner in every conflict. Jason says the sky is blue. No, it's cloudy. Jason, pull your head out and look outside, all right? Okay, these are indicators. Other ones, do they have a grievance? Has one pending or makes a lot of unreasonable ones? Do they have a lot of police encounters? And the media. I'll get into this. Right now is probably one of the most dangerous times for workplace violence in America. What is going on is anytime that there's a big thing that gets a lot of news going, then there's copycats. And whether it's because they don't have a reason to live anymore, but at least they'll go out and be famous, or whether they're suffering on the inside and they want everybody else to suffer too. I don't know the motivation, but we've seen it time and time again that once there's one workplace violence, then there's a string and then it dies off. And then there's a string and then it dies off. So because of the media coverage, I think it actually instigates more violence. And that's why I call them the Columbine cowards. And that's why that other turkey is a coward from Connecticut. Part of it is because of the violence, but I really think that if they get referred to in the media as cowards, and he is, anybody that takes an AR-15 in to shoot kindergartners is a coward in my book. maybe that will start reversing the trend a little bit. Another indicator is their focus. Do they keep tabs on others even though it's not their job? It's your boss's job to make sure that you're at work on time and all that kind of stuff, but it is not your coworker's job to make sure you're not spending too much time at the water fountain. So another indicator. Contact. That's another thing. If this coworker is fired, if he's more interested in his old job than getting a new one, again, this is an indicator. Your responsibility in this type of situation, if somebody's threatening you or you see these indicators, and let me say, these are indicators. It's not one of those, this is not a checklist. It's not, okay, he's got this, he's going to be violent. These are just indicators to make sure that you're aware and alert. And since I don't know your titles and things like that, a line officer has to report if there's threatening or intimidating behavior going on. A supervisor must document if there's threatening behavior or indicators like that. You have to document what's going on, and you must take action. You're never allowed to look the other way. We all work together. Being coworkers is almost like a forced marriage. All right, it's true. You spend 40 hours a week at least with each other, and sometimes you don't wanna. I know that there are times when I feel more. I don't know. I feel like I'm at work more than I'm at home. So anyway, when it comes to workplace violence, you won't be safe just because you didn't speak out. You should be aware of that. Just like, the Columbine cowards went after, they killed a lot of people. It didn't matter what they were. Why are they violent? Again, I go back to the justified, shrinking alternative, positive consequences, and ability. And when you're going with coworker violence, this is one of the mistakes that I see organizations make all the time. So George here has done some really dumb stuff that, it's true. She's done some stuff that typically, she's been employed here for what, 2 years now? Yeah, thanks George. She's done some really dumb stuff. And we say, we're gonna give George a chance. And then she does something dumb again. And it's like, well, we'll give her another chance. And then she forgets to refill the coffee in the morning. And it's like, okay, George, you're fired. All right? You can't do that. You've got to, because George's natural reaction is going to be to, I got away with this, and I got away with this, and I got away with this, and they're firing me because I forgot to take the trash can out? This isn't fair. I'm justified in my anger right now. So something to think about as supervisors. The other thing is, how were they treated when they were fired? Well, is there any other triggering events? Being fired is a big thing, guys. All of us know this because we're in a profession. This is not just a job, it's a profession. But being fired is a big thing. If I'm getting fired, getting divorced, having other problems, there can be more triggering events. The other thing is, how invested are they? I've got almost 19 years on the police department. I could basically retire in a year. So if I got fired today, how mad would I be? Yeah, whereas if I've been at the police department for 6 months and I get fired, I'm not as invested. Same thing works with relationships. If George and I have been together have gone out on 3 dates and she dumps me, big deal. I can find somebody just twice as good as George. Whereas if we've been together for 12 years and she dumps me, huge deal. So another thing to look at is, how invested are they? Shrinking alternatives, again, money, identity, dignity, positive consequences. Well, if I come here and I'm violent, I'm probably not going to get my job back, but there might be other positive consequences for me. Might be famous. I might make Jason regret his decision for firing me if I come in here and shoot all you. Okay? That's what I think. It's not true. Or another positive consequence is make you guys suffer because you never took out the trash, you never filled up the coffee. Make you guys suffer just as much as I have. Ability, we've kind of gone over that. How do you prevent violent employees? First off, don't hire them. Okay? That's the best thing right there. Check their references. There's a lot of organizations, and I'm sure that being a state organization, you do check references, but there's some places that don't, and that's huge. Ask questions about about their attitudes. Just kind of open questions of, describe the best and worst boss you ever had, those kinds of things. The other thing is, don't retain them too long. Just like I said, if I've been working at the police department for 6 months versus 19 and a half years, huge difference. So if there's any problem with violence, threats, intimidation, manipulation, or escalation of that, you have to report it, you have to document it, and you have to do something about it. You can't let it slide. And I don't know what you guys' dating policy is or anything like that, but that's a big thing too. You can't. Are you allowed to date coworkers or no? It's frowned on. George is here going, I haven't seen anybody I want to date yet. When you're terminating somebody, make sure you protect their dignity, make sure the termination's complete, do not negotiate, make sure you keep the decision future-based. You are basically kicking somebody right in the teeth, so you need to make it future-based. Okay, if people call here for you, where do you want me to forward the mail? Where do you want me to do this? When you go to other jobs. And of course, if they're now looking for other jobs and wanting to go to the Christmas party here, that's another clue, okay? Cite general rather than specific issues. Remember the element of surprise. Time it right. You do not want somebody to show up at 8 o'clock in the morning and you fire them right then, okay? 5 o'clock, just before close, something like that, is the appropriate time to do that. If you have to, it gives them time to go home, talk to the wife, cool down, not come back with a gun. Choose your setting, choose your cast. Jason's a big, scary guy. And it might make, when Sue has to fire him, it might make her feel better to have me and these 3 bruisers sitting behind her, okay? Not the best way to do it. She's actually, I meant you 3. Not always the best thing. The other thing I want to get into, and I've worked with Safe House on this portion, domestic violence and the workplace, it affects everyone. If you are being beaten at home, and Jason, I strongly suspect that you are, there's a lot of side problems that go along with this. A lot of late calls, not able to concentrate on work. Well, George and I, you've heard about our dating relationship, right? And I'm controlling domestic abuser. And everybody here knows that domestic abuse is about control, right? Okay. So since George is at work, I want to know what George is doing every moment of the day, so I'm texting her 16, 18, 44, 144 times a day. How productive can George be with that going on? All right, from the Maine Department of Labor, 80% said their abuser came to their work, 13% said they were assaulted while at work, 60% of people or women surveyed said they lost their job because of domestic violence, and 74% said they were harassed at work. Just the texting, the phone calls, the emails. Now, I'm hoping that none of you guys are in a domestic abuse situation. Even if you're not, if one of your colleagues is, that can be a threat to you, because I get mad at George is going to leave me. I come here with my gun. I don't care what's going to get between me and George, okay? I'm going to take George out. If you get in my way, sorry. 75% of women murdered at work are by their ex-partners. So how do we address it? First off, you have to recognize it. And as supervisors out here, if you have people that are anxious about getting home late, shows up with bruises and said, yeah, the dog ate my homework. No, that's not right. The dog did it, or I tripped, or the stairs. Talks to you about a friend being abused, is depressed, a partner appears extremely controlling, excessively tardy or absent, continually on the cell phone or checking it. That's the thing where I'm trying to make sure I know where George is and what she's doing, so I'm calling her and texting her every little bit. Very distracted. Even as supervisors especially, but as co-workers, recognizing this is a problem, and it might put you at risk. How do we address it? You need to communicate. Talk to the employee, indicate your observations, show support and concern, and leave the door open if there's a denial. Now, I'm George's coworker now. If I'm talking to George about domestic abuse and she denies it, say, okay, well, that's fine. Maybe I was wrong, but leave that door open. And worst thing is, don't judge them or push them to leave their abuser, okay? George comes home, and at least once a week, I beat her. Do you think she doesn't know that maybe getting out of there is a good thing to do? She doesn't need to hear that from you. You know, they know that getting out of there is a good thing to do, but there's other things that are tying them to that. You know, whether it's because it's my paycheck, whether we have kids together, you know, she wants to provide for that. There's other things tying there. So don't judge them and don't push them to leave, even though most of us sitting here are going, will you please get out of that relationship? Because that's the way we feel. And we don't like to see George get hurt. Other ways that we can address it: refer to services. You guys have an employee assistance program, safe houses out there, legal aid, health service, social service, domestic violence crisis line. And you notice who I didn't even mention police, but we're there too, okay? Provide administrative support, time off, flexible schedules. And that's going to be important, because one of the things as an abuser, I know what hours George works. I know which room she's in. You know, if you guys have the ability to flex her schedule, so I don't have a clue of when she's going to be walking in from the parking lot, that's a good thing. That's a real good thing, because that's where I'm most likely going to try to hurt George. So if you can flex that out a little bit, it's not a bad thing at all. As colleagues, you need to let your supervisors know. If you're getting a protection order against an abuser, stalking order, or restraining order, let them know, because this is going to be a triggering event in my life, and I could go nuts, and I could come here. The other thing, if that's going on and we know that this is a situation, you know, I as a supervisor would go to George and say, can I show a photo? Can I post a photo up by the front desk? You know, just so, you know, you've got a protection order against your abuser, just so people, the other employees here, know that if they see him in the parking lot, that this could be a bad day, because you've got a protection order against your abuser anyway. So I would like to post a photo, but you would need to do that with the person's permission. You know, you can develop, as an organization, you can develop policies to support the victim, protections for the victim, identifying the abuser, train the staff, train the victim, zero tolerance for the attacker at work. And that's one of the main things I would go, how do I put this politely? George and I might get back together. George might be weak. But if this type of situation goes on, I should never be allowed at George's work. Okay, even if we get back together, I should never be allowed at George's work. Okay, and that's what you can do as an administration, because that's keeping everybody else safe. A victim leaving your abuser is like terminating an employee. Both are emotionally invested. Protect their dignity. Make the separation complete. You know, and this is, I'm talking to the victim here. Make the separation complete. Don't negotiate. You know, it would be, okay, I'm going to change roles again. Now George is the abuser. So George, it's not you, okay? It's not you, but we can't be together anymore, and we're not going to be together anymore, all right? But it's not you. I'm sure that you will find someone out there wonderful like Jason that you guys you can be with. You know, and if George tries to negotiate and say, well, maybe I'll just come over for a little while or something like that, no, the decision is final. I'm going to keep the conversation future-based, you know, because you and Jason would have lovely children together. You know, that's just so that's how, if a victim is separating from her abuser, is a good way to do it. Now, I as the abuser, why would I attack George at work? George gets a lot of power and control from her job here. You know, it is her identity. It gives her money. It gives her freedom. She has all you people in here that are friends, which I'm jealous about, because I don't like her having friends. So, you know, I'm already mad at you guys, and that's one of the reasons I might attack her at work. I might want to make her afraid to go to work. You know, if she comes out and her tires are slashed on her car and she knows I've been there, you know, I've made her afraid even at work. I may blame you guys for giving her the care, support that she needs to leave me. So I may be mad at you anyway. And a lot of times, if George and I have been together for a while, I've been whittling away at her support systems. You know, her best friends from college, she doesn't hang out with anymore. She only calls her mother once every, you know, on the holidays. I've whittled away at all the other support systems that I can. So I'm probably attacking her strongest support system. Like I said, parking lot is the most common place for attack. So as staff, you can change the parking area. Do you guys have assigned parking? Okay. Well, then I guess that would be up to you, George. You need to start parking somewhere else. Have you could actually get a different car so that I don't know where your car is going to be at, so I don't know which door you're going to come out of, so I can't lay in wait and attack you. And we can also, as colleagues and coworkers, you can offer support by walking her to her car, since we know the parking lot is the most dangerous place for her. I don't know if you guys get offended by the terminology, but at this point, George is a target because she's made the decision to leave me. She is now a target. She's not a victim. Providing a new phone number at work, the email address I mentioned, provide a code word for help. So if George is sitting in the cubicle or in the office and she realizes something is going on and her office mates know that there's some sort of code word, this also works well with clients. If you're sitting out in front in there and you go, George, last time I was in Cincinnati, that might be a good tool for you guys to have as well. Just some sort of code word that doesn't mean immediately, oh my gosh, I'm going to run out of here with my hair on fire, but things are getting tenser than I like right now. And it could be something as simple as seeing me sit down and seeing my gun exposed. I'm assuming if a client brings a gun to a meeting, that's a bad thing. Okay. So a code word in both the domestic violence and with the clients. Have a response plan. If something like this happens, will the perpetrator be recognized? Who's going to be called? Who can lock down the workplace? Who warns the target? Sue, if you saw me coming in and you know what's going on between George and I, are you going to go to George and say, George, get the heck out of here? He's walking in and he's carrying an AK-47. Just having some sort of plans there. Is there an exit strategy, or are you guys just going to lock down and shelter in place? This is an excellent building for a few reasons. It has very limited access to the building. It has active surveillance, which I love. You have strict entry methods in that, I don't know that I could get past that gal at the front desk. She scares me. I don't even know her name and she scares me. All right, so this is an excellent building, but just having those thoughts in mind, what is the plan? Where could I go to get shelter? And the supporting of the victim, especially of domestic violence. Colorado Springs, gunman held 2 people hostage. Guy comes in with a gun, says everybody, and it's to a medical clinic, tells everybody to get on the ground. The doctor, Jeff Ferguson, was in the building when the suspect arrived. Thought, okay, this guy's going to start shooting people right now. The doctor had his concealed weapons permit and a gun stored nearby, which he then grabbed and stood between the gunman and the employees while the employees made it out of the building, at least some of them. But there were people with medical issues. Obviously, you're in a medical facility. It's a urology clinic. There were people with medical issues that could not evacuate. They couldn't scurry down the hallway. So this was an issue. So these are things, and I'm going to read this to you real quickly. Larry Kelber and his wife Arlene were not hostages, but were temporarily trapped in the building during the ordeal. There was screaming and yelling, and everyone was yelling, "Call 911." Kelber told the Gazette. One woman was really upset and kept carrying on and saying, "Somebody hug me, somebody hug me." Kelber uses a walker and was unsure if he could make it down the stairs, so he and his wife locked themselves into an office. After about a half hour, his wife poked her head out, spotted a police officer, and the officer moved them to a more protected office and then later helped him get down the stairs. So think about it, and you guys laughed, and that's part of the reason I have this in here, is that somebody hug me, somebody hug me. Okay, we don't know how we're going to react in tense, violent situations. Somebody comes in with a gun, and this guy hadn't even fired off shots. People get excited, and we don't always react the way we think we will. But if you look at that, you've got, if I have half this room yell at the top of their lungs, someone call 911, and the other half start trying to hug each other, well, there's a man with a walker trying to scurry down the hallway. It's pandemonium. All right? So having a plan ahead of time is a good thing. Now there's one other thing. Oh, Denver Post reported in 2007 he was charged with ownership of a dangerous dog causing bodily injury, but the charge was later dismissed, is what the records show. Now, the reason I bring that up is because I know some of the backstory that's not in this. Basically what this suspect had done is a gal that worked at this medical office had contacted him because she wanted to buy a pit bull. She emailed him back and forth. They had a disagreement. She basically told him to go pound sand. She didn't want his darn pit bull anymore. So this made him irrationally angry, and he tracked her through Facebook. Found out where she works, what schedule she works, and what floor she works on. So he showed up with his gun specifically to find her, all off of Facebook. Now, who all here has Facebook accounts? Okay. Be aware of what you're putting out there. Now, this is not the norm for workplace violence. This is not the norm. But this guy was able to track her through Facebook. And just so you know, I'm a Facebook stalker myself. You guys might have read here locally, a guy recently got sentenced for 9 years in prison for his part in a May home invasion. I was a detective that worked that case. Basically, 3 guys get mad at this one other guy. They break into his house at 3 o'clock in the morning. They duct tape the 3 victims together, steal a bunch of his stuff, hit one of the guys with a hatchet in the leg, and then hold him down and carve a C into his forehead. These are nice boys. And can you believe me when I'm in there saying, you know, sometimes people just make mistakes, or there's criminals. That was a tough sell. But, all right, so what I have is I know where one of the suspects live. And it's right next to a loaf and jug convenience store. So I go in and I look at their surveillance. And this is a picture from the video surveillance of this guy in a blue shirt and a blue hat. I know, yes, he's got friends, his 3 other co-conspirators. We don't call them friends anymore, we call them co-conspirators. So I've got this guy identified, I've got this guy identified. I'm not able to figure out who this guy is until Facebook. I got that off his Facebook account. Exact same clothes he was wearing 30 minutes after he did the home invasion. So be aware as you're putting yourself out there how much information there is, and if somebody wants to hurt you, are they going to be able to do it? So that's all I got for you guys. Thank you for being so patient.